What if the Dallas Cowboys actually pull this off? What if the move that's been brewing beneath the surface, the one that's had insiders whispering and fans wondering, finally happens and George Pickens becomes a Cowboy? Let that sink in for a moment. Because if it does, it's not just another name added to the roster. No, this is the kind of acquisition that can shift the balance of power in the NFC and reignite a fire in Dallas that hasn't burned this bright since the glory days. George Pickens isn't just a good receiver, he's the kind of explosive playmaker that alters defensive schemes and unlocks a whole new level of offensive freedom. And for the Cowboys, who are right on the edge of greatness but constantly falling just short, Pickens could be the missing piece they've been desperately seeking. Now, imagine this scenario. The Cowboys, after years of dancing around mediocrity and playoff heartbreaks, decide to stop playing it safe. They pick up the phone and go after George Pickens, a move that sends shockwaves across the league. The Steelers, perhaps feeling pressure about locker room dynamics or salary cap realities, are open to listening. Maybe there's friction with the quarterback. Maybe Pickens himself is quietly eyeing a change of scenery, one that will put him under the bright lights of AT&T Stadium. Whatever the catalyst, it becomes real. Suddenly, you've got Dak Prescott lining up behind center, scanning the field, and spotting George Pickens one-on-one on the outside. That's the kind of matchup defenses lose sleep over. That's the kind of matchup that ends droughts and builds dynasties. Pickens isn't your average receiver. He's a physical freak. At 6'3", 200 pounds, with long arms, strong hands, and elite ball skills, he's built to dominate. He's the kind of guy who goes up and gets it, fights through contact, and makes the kind of catches that swing momentum. What sets Pickens apart is his attitude, the competitive edge, the fire, the raw energy he brings to every snap. That edge, when channeled in the right environment, can become the heartbeat of a team. And in Dallas, where fans are starving for a return to dominance, that energy might be exactly what's needed. Pairing Pickens with CeeDee Lamb would instantly create one of the most dynamic receiver duos in the league. It would give Dak the kind of weaponry he hasn't consistently had and force defenses into impossible decisions. Stack the box to stop the run? You're leaving Pickens and Lamb isolated. Play two safeties deep? Now Tony Pollard or Rico Dowdle or whoever the Cowboys plug into the backfield can gash you underneath. From a scheme perspective, Pickens could be a dream fit. Mike McCarthy has made it clear he wants to establish a more aggressive vertical passing game. The problem? Outside of Lamb, the Cowboys haven't had consistent downfield threats. Brandon Cooks is speedy but aging. Michael Gallup never bounced back the way fans hoped. Jalen Tolbert's still a project. Insert Pickens, and suddenly, the entire landscape changes. You've got a young, explosive, alpha receiver who can dominate the boundary, win contested catches, and break games wide open. That opens up the middle of the field for Lamb to work his magic in the slot. It creates opportunities for tight ends like Jake Ferguson and Luke Schoonmaker to thrive underneath. It gives Dak a safety valve and a home run threat on every play. But it's not just about the X's and O's. Bringing Pickens to Dallas would be a statement. It would be Jerry Jones stepping out and saying, "We're not waiting anymore. We're not hoping we figure it out. We're going for it now." And that mindset is contagious. It would energize the locker room. It would galvanize the fanbase. It would change the narrative around the Cowboys from one of yearly disappointment to one of legitimate contention. And when you look at the NFC landscape, there's a real opening. The Eagles are still strong but not unbeatable. The 49ers are stacked but have QB uncertainty. The Lions are rising but still unproven in January. If the Cowboys add George Pickens to the mix, they're not just another playoff team, they're a real threat to make a Super Bowl run. Of course, pulling this off wouldn't come cheap. The Steelers aren't going to give away a talent like Pickens without a serious return. We're talking at least a second-round pick, probably more. Maybe the Cowboys send Gallup and a future second, or a player plus picks package that gives Pittsburgh flexibility. There's also the issue of cap space. Pickens is still on his rookie deal, which is manageable, but Dallas would need to think long term. Signing Lamb to a mega deal is already looming. Eventually, they'll need to pay Micah Parsons, Tyler Smith, and potentially Trayvon Diggs again down the line. But if the Cowboys believe this is their window, if they believe this roster is just one star receiver away, they might be willing to roll the dice and figure the rest out later. There's also the attitude factor. Pickens is fiery. He doesn't hide his emotions. He wants the ball, and he's not shy about letting people know it. In some locker rooms, that causes tension. But in Dallas? That passion could thrive. The Cowboys have always been at their best when they embrace big personalities. From Michael Irvin to Des Bryant, the history is there. Pickens has that same kind of swagger. It's not just about production, it's about presence. And in a city like Dallas, where the lights never dim and the headlines never stop, having a player who thrives under pressure is invaluable. Let's talk about Dak for a moment. He's been a polarizing figure in Dallas. Some fans love him. Others doubt whether he can lead this team to a championship. But what's undeniable is that Dak has had to carry a lot on his shoulders. Year after year, he's been asked to do more with less patchwork offensive lines, inconsistent running games, and a revolving door of receivers. When he had Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb together, we saw glimpses of what he could be. Now imagine giving him Pickens, a true outside threat who can beat press coverage, win 50/50 balls, and demand attention every snap. That kind of help could be the key to unlocking a new level in Dak's game. It could be the difference between another early exit and a deep playoff run. And what about the fans? Cowboys Nation is one of the most passionate, loyal, and at times, frustrated fan bases in all of sports. They've been waiting patiently, loudly, painfully for a return to greatness. A move like this wouldn't just satisfy the hunger. It would feed the fire. Social media would explode. Jerseys would fly off the shelves. AT&T Stadium would erupt every time Pickens took the field. It would be a spark, a jolt of electricity, a reminder that the Cowboys are still capable of bold, game-changing moves. Because that's what this franchise is built on: boldness, swagger, stars. And George Pickens? He checks every box. On the other side of the ball, a move like this would indirectly help the defense too. If the Cowboys can score more quickly and consistently, Dan Quinn's unit can play more aggressively. Micah Parsons can pin his ears back and rush. Trayvon Diggs and Darren Bland can jump routes. The entire team becomes more dangerous when the offense can strike at will. It's the ripple effect of adding a player like Pickens. It doesn't just make the passing game better, it makes the whole team better. Now let's entertain the possibility that this doesn't happen. That Pickens stays in Pittsburgh, and the Cowboys play it safe. They go into the season with what they've got. Maybe Cooks has a bounce-back year. Maybe Tolbert develops. Maybe the tight ends take a leap. But is that enough? Is that going to be enough when you're staring down the Eagles in Week 9, or heading into the playoffs needing a touchdown with 2 minutes left? That's the gamble. The Cowboys have been knocking on the door for years. At some point, you either kick it down or accept that it may never open. So what if they pull it off? What if they pick up that phone, make the call, and bring George Pickens to Dallas? The locker room shifts. The offense explodes. The defense gets more aggressive. The fans lose their minds. And suddenly, the Cowboys aren't just another good team, they're the team no one wants to face. The team with swagger. The team with stars. The team with purpose. That's the potential impact of George Pickens. That's the kind of move that changes everything. And if you're sitting there thinking this is just fantasy, remember this is the NFL. Stranger things have happened. Big trades go down when you least expect them. Teams get bold. Windows open and close fast. And for the Cowboys, that window is wide open right now. They've got the talent. They've got the urgency. All that's left is to make the move. Because if they do, if they land George Pickens, then the rest of the NFC better watch out. Because the Dallas Cowboys will be coming, and they'll be coming with fire. So buckle up, Cowboys Nation. Because this story is far from over. And if the front office dares to dream, if they dare to act, we could be witnessing the beginning of something special. Something loud. Something dangerous. Something that might finally bring the Lombardi back to Dallas. All it takes is one bold move. And George Pickens might just be that move.